Wuthering Waves is a rather complex open-world gacha game in terms of combat, progression, and overall management of resources, so it's quite common for players to make mistakes at different stages of progression, including early game, mid-game, and end-game that causes them to struggle and might possibly end up with an account that is beyond saving if you don't spend money in the game. So in today's video, I'm going to break down common mistakes players make in all stages of progression, how they can affect your account, and offer insights on how to prevent them or fix them in case you've already found yourself in such situations. If the video helps you in any way, be sure to leave a like and subscribe to help support the channel. The first mistake that you can never come back from, especially if you're free to play, is spending astrites on the beginner banner, standard resonator banner, and standard weapon banners. Astrites are premium currency in Wuthering Waves, so your top priority is to save as much as you can and spend them on limited time character and weapon banners. The game provides you with a ton of lustrous tides when you first start playing to help you secure standard 5 stars like Verena, Encore, and Jungzin. Aside from that, you get lustrous ties from login events at the beginning of every patch and several events like Lolo Campaign, for example. Getting 100% completion on all maps also earns you lustrous ties to spend on the standard banners. The standard character banner has no value if you already have Verena because you can lose your 50-50 to other characters like Encore, Kalcharo, and Jungzin. The standard weapon banner does look tempting, especially if you're free to play and you want to secure multiple copies of Emerald of Genesis and Static Mist since they have crit rate substats, but try to resist the temptation and spend your hard-earned astrites on limited characters and weapons that'll provide the most value in the long term if you don't spend that much money in the game. The second mistake is investing in too many characters at once. A classic beginner mistake is trying to level and gear every new character you pull, and if it's any consolation, I made this mistake a couple of months after the game's release by building my Kalcharo and Ling Yang when resources were very limited at the time. This splits your resources too thin and leaves you with a lot of underpowered characters instead of a few strong ones that you need to beat content in the early game. If your union level is below 80, you're obviously not ready to take on endgame content, so focus on 3 core characters to form a single team composition. Typically one main DPS like Encore and Kalcharo, who you can select and obtain at 80 pulls on the beginner's choice banner, one universal sub DPS buffer like Yang Yang to give you more resonance energy, who's perfect for DPS characters that rely on their liberation to do damage. And lastly, a healing buffer or sustain unit like Verena, who you should have gotten with your free 5-star selector. This balanced team will carry you through most early and mid-game content, and by prioritizing a core team, you can make the most of limited upgrade materials and also ensures that you don't end up building characters that you won't use in the long term, like how I have no choice but to bench my Ling Yang as far as endgame content is concerned. Another benefit of prioritizing a single core team in early and mid-game is that it helps you gather knowledge about the game, especially with buffing terminologies like ultra skills, so that it becomes easier to decide that this is the character I want on my account as far as team building is concerned. Speaking of team building, the third mistake that you can make is hyper-focusing on ultra buffs, especially if you're free to play or a low spender. This applies to those in mid-game and endgame progression levels. Ultra buffs are much more powerful compared to damage bonuses that you can get when a character like Lupa ultra from the field to Brand, which increases Brand's damage quite significantly. These ultra skills are mostly split into attribute damage amplification and skill damage amplification like basic attack damage, for example, but most players end up hyper-focusing on these buffs and restricts their team building. Let's take Rocha for example. Her ultra skill amplifies havoc damage and basic attack damage, so Camellia and Cantarella are her best teammates that can fully take advantage of this ultra buff since their damage sources skills of basic attack damage and they belong to the havoc attribute. But this does not mean that Rocha is stuck with Camellia and Cantarella because she can amplify havoc damage by 20%, which makes her viable to be paired with any havoc DPS. And the best part is that if that particular Havoc DPS has a decent portion of their damage coming from multiple sources like Liberation, Skill, and Basic Attack, instead of majority of them coming from one particular skill, The 20% havoc damage amplification works wonders to help you clear any type of content with units like Havoc Rover, for example, whose damage comes from multiple sources. Another example of a unit that serves as a good investment is Lupa, who provides 20% fusion damage amplification from her outro skill, in addition to other damage buffs for any future fusion DPS that you decide to pair her with. Damage output may be low compared to their best in slot sub DPS, but it can certainly clear even the most difficult content. At the end of the day, DPS units will always be designed to have best in slot teammates that helps them do big damage, but if you're a low spender, you can get away with sub DPS units that provides attribute damage amplification effects so that you can focus on getting the DPS character's weapon, for example. This is why it's crucial to have a good build on your sub DPS buffers. Their signature weapons are by no means necessary if you can't afford it, but their personal damage in addition to your DPS can help contribute to decent clear times. Hence, characters like Yinlin, Jeji, Cantarella, and Rocha will have value for many patches to come. On the topic of team building, the fourth mistake that you can make is neglecting the value that 4-star characters can provide to your team building. I know we don't have a lot of them, but never underestimate 4 stars like Taochi, Sanhua, Mortefi, Dongjin, and Lumi. These 4 stars provide damage amplification effects from their outro skills, so they can be an affordable or F2P option to pair with DPS characters that you pull in the future, as long as there's synergy between them and the DPS character, and you know how to outro with them as quickly as possible through animation cancelling, since most of them are not concerto efficient. But concerto energy regeneration is not an issue for Sanhua, which is why she's considered as the best 4-star among them. Knowing how to outro quickly with Taochi, Alto, Mortefi, and Dongjin will save you a ton of astrites in the process, which you can use to get the DPS and their signature weapon. I usually cover synergies between upcoming characters and their free-to-play team options before release, so be sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you don't want to miss it. Now let's dive much deeper into resource management. The fifth mistake that you can make is wasting seal tubes or echo leveling materials. These are quite hard to come by, so make it your top priority to save as much as possible by knowing when to stop leveling an echo. If we're leveling a crit damage echo, for example, it takes 16 golden seal tubes to level an echo to level 20 to reach 36.9% crit damage, and from there you need an additional 13 golden seal tubes to get it to level 25, which gives you 44% crit damage. So basically, you're spending 13 golden seal tubes for just 7% additional crit damage, which is a ripoff in my opinion. But you need to level them up to be able to tune them, which offer chances of dropping crit rate or crit damage substats. So to save resources, here's what I recommend. The first thing to do is to level up your echoes the right way. Click on this setting icon and select level cap and only echo exp items. Now when you press add by step, it will select the minimum echo exp materials required to level up an echo to level 5, 10, 15, 20, and 25. I recommend that you do this to upgrade your echoes to level 20 before you tune it to see which substats that you end up with. If you get a single crit, do not upgrade it to level 25 to tune it again for a chance to obtain another crit substat, because the investment is just not worth it. What you need to do is to use this echo to upgrade a new one, and then add by step to get it to level 20 and repeat the whole process again until you can get double crit substats. On the topic of substats, the sixth mistake that you can make is throwing away a double crit echo just because it doesn't have a particular damage bonus that the character needs to do majority of their damage. This can increase your damage output, especially if you need them to compensate for the lack of damage bonuses on the character's weapon if you don't have it. But in most cases, it's just not worth it. Getting double crit itself is resource consuming, so adding another substat to the list just makes it even much harder. Unless you're building a character like Brent who requires energy regen in addition to double crit to help with the 250% energy regen requirement on Tidebreaking Courage, always prioritize double crit substats. You can hyper invest in double crit and a particular damage bonus if you plan not to pull any character in the near future to help you save resources. The seventh mistake that you can make is to spend too much resources leveling up talents that you don't really need. Let's take Zani for example. The most important stuff that you need to level up is her Liberation and Forte circuit, but the rest can be left at level 6 since you don't need weekly boss materials to get it to level 6. Don't get me wrong, leveling everything can make your DPS do more damage, but unless the damage comes from talent that contributes to a higher portion of their overall damage, the amount of resources involved is just not worth it. The final mistake that you can make is not spending your Waveplates more efficiently. Waveplates refresh daily up to 240, and you can exchange them for weapons, skill, and EXP materials, but you need to efficiently prioritize what to farm in different situations. If your union level is not high enough to level your characters to level 90 for endgame content, don't worry too much about spending Waveplates because you will spend the same amount of Waveplates as someone at union level 80, but you end up with less rewards. Instead, focus on gearing the characters that you have in the early game with your daily Waveplates refresh until they are well built to get you through events and defeating enemies in the overworld. But for players like me at union level 80, the first thing to do is to spend your Waveplates in the Fantasies of 1,000 Gateways event after every weekly reset. You gain sealed tubes, tuners, but most importantly, unborn echoes that prevent you from grinding echoes in tacit fields when new echo sets gets introduced in the game. Once that's done, you'll be prioritizing spending at least 80 Waveplates on shell credits because you need them for almost anything that you do in the game, 80 on Resonance Potion for ascending characters, and 80 on Energy Core for leveling up weapons daily. The reason you're doing this is because these materials are universal and can be useful when leveling any character or any weapon. Only farm tacit fields for sealed tubes when Court Cleansing event comes up, which gives you double rewards for spending just 60 Waveplates. For the Bountiful Crescendo double drop event, it's easy to get confused whether to spend your Waveplates in the Forgery Challenge or the Simulation Challenge for double drop rewards. But if you usually spend your Waveplates farming Resonance Potion, Show Credits, and Energy Core like I mentioned earlier, before Bountiful Crescendo event drops, it makes it easier to focus on the Forgery Supply Challenge to farm the specific skill and weapon material for the upcoming character. The Court Cleansing and Bountiful Crescendo events usually come up to help you prepare for upcoming characters, so that's the best time to farm for specific Forgery Challenge materials without wasting it on random Forgery challenges just because you want to spend your Waveplates and be done with it. Hope this video provided value to you, and if it did, leave a like and subscribe to support the channel. Be sure to also join our Discord community if you're having any issues with the game or you just want a place to chill or hang out. Link will be in the pinned comment below. Catch you guys in the next one. Bye bye.